been hearing some really amazing stories today about people who are saying that their lives have been a bit changed because they survived some amazing feats that have been caught on video. You've been watching that video of guests who miraculously survived, and here's another story. Our next guest story is just as frightening. It was on Mother's Day that she went diving off the coast of Kona, Hawaii, just to film some dolphins. Well, surprisingly, she ran into a group of whales. Minutes later, she was fighting for her life as one of the whales actually bit her and started dragging her under. Please welcome from Watsonville, California, Lisa Costello. Lisa, you had been diving for like 30 years, searching for dolphins and whales, and this time, I mean, explain what happened to you.
Well, we were just out there, and we came across this pod that was really active. They were going somewhere. They were just porpoising, you could see in the video, and got up next to them, and then they just kept going. And we were pretty far out, about 12 miles, so I stopped and put the motors in neutral, and they turned around, came back to the boat, and started frolicking around and pairing off and playing, getting real silly and playing. And then I got in the water, and Dr. Tepley got in the water, and this large male came up to me and stopped, which is very unusual because dolphins like to perform, whales could care less. They're very, very aloof. And all you really get with whales and dolphins is eye contact. And so I looked him in the eyes, and I went above the water, and he went above, and I went below, and we did that for a while. And then he was just...
This is amazing to me. I'm sorry. I'm thinking this 20-foot whale, and you're making eye contact, playing with it. I'm sorry, but that alone is amazing to me.
But they're not mean. They're not aggressive. And so anyway, I was floating with my hands extended, and I started petting him, and he still wasn't moving. And I was very, very surprised because normally they just can't be bothered with us. And he stood still and allowed me to pet him for a very long period of time. And then I stopped. And when he went down, I was like next to him, he went down and didn't even move his tail, because if he had have used his tail to get down, he would have hit me, and he kept it real still. He was very polite.
A gentlemanly whale.
And he went down. They came up and did a vertical spy hop. That's when they come straight up and look around. We had eye contact again, and then he went above the water and looked around and came back, and we had eye contact again, and then he came around and nipped me in my thigh, like a poodle nip. And then he turned over on his, you'll see in the video, on his, with his belly up.
Well, let's take a look at the video and explain to us what we're seeing here.
This is what they were like when we saw them. They were just really moving fast. And then this is when I got in the water, and you can see he just came up to me and stopped. See, he's not even swimming. And this is when I was petting him, and that went on for quite a while. I loved petting him. He was just, and you see how still he is? And then he came around and nipped me. And then see how he goes with on his back, with his belly up. Very vulnerable, very playful position. And then now we're down below. That's about 40 feet.
Is he still got your foot in his mouth?
No, now he's got my ankle. The nip was the thigh.
Oh,
that's the ankle. And you can see how he's just floating. His tail's not really moving.
But weren't you panicking at this time?
That's when I was down there. I looked at him. I remember looking at him, going, "Well, now what are you doing?" Because I never had any fear against him. It's just like I was confused. Like, now what are you doing? And then I remember looking up, and I went, "That's it. I'm dead. I'm going to drown." If he let go of me at that point, I wouldn't have made it to the surface.
And he let go of you. You know, you were, I know that you had told one of my producers, you think that he actually saved your life, that he realized that he...
Well, you can see the last part of the video, if you show it again, he was just floating, and about the last 15 feet, you can see his whole body just go really, very quickly got me to the surface, because I maybe had a second, maybe 2 seconds. I mean, I felt myself passing into death.
Well, Lee Tepley, who you talked about, who is traveling with you, is on the phone with us now from California. Lee, it's so nice to have you here, too.
Yeah, nice to be on the phone, Rolonda.
Lee, I've got to say, I mean, if I were with a traveling companion and that happened, I think, I got to admit, I might have panicked. What were you going through?
Well, I was filming it, and that's what you're saying is a video taken from my movie camera. and you didn't see the worst part of it by a long shot. I didn't film the worst part. Lisa was down a lot longer than shown on the film, and when she was really having troubles, I thought she was going to die. And so it was a pretty scary experience. I'd like to say one more thing really quick, that I was fined by the federal government $10,000 for harassing these pilot whales. It was a $10,000 fine, and I was convicted and even lost an appeal. And we had to go up to district court, and I had some great attorneys, and the decision was finally reversed. And I wanted to say that because the judge, when they reversed the government's decision, they said this whole encounter was totally gentle, and there was no harassment whatsoever by either Lisa or myself. But it was a pretty scary experience, and
yeah,
I don't think the whale was trying to hurt her. He was just playing with her.
I think that's the point. I know that you were very serious about making that point, Lisa, that this was not a hostile attack, that they were just playing.
Well, he was around 18.
Of course, I wouldn't want the whale to play with me that way. But
he was around 18, 20 feet, maybe 2,000 to 3,000 pounds. And he had me so gently that I was able to move my entire ankle around. Now, I couldn't get it out, but it was so gentle that I could move my whole ankle. Well, if he wanted to hurt me, he could have just bit my leg in half, my body in half.
Yeah. So you're going to go back down under?
Did 5 days later.
You did? The courage. Our audience members have an awful lot of questions for you survivors. Like, Joe, we want to know if you still fly. Don't answer that yet. That's the question you had. We're going to find out a lot, not only about amazing survival stories, but an awful lot about courage today, too. Coming up next, meet a helicopter news pilot who risks his life to save the life of a man held at gunpoint. We'll be right back with audience questions in just a moment.